Hi everyone, Andrew here from the Time Series Insights Program Management team. In this video, I'm going to cover common customer challenges and provide some mitigation strategies and best practices to employ to avoid them. So the first thing I'd like to cover is data deletion and making sure that you're storing data in Time Series Insights in such a way that you're not going to have any of your data purged that you don't intend to. So the best place to start here is to go to the configuration blade. Now, as you'll notice, I have a single unit S1 environment provisioned, and I have my data retention time set to 31 days. You'll notice that my ingress rate is 1 million events per day. So if I wanted to go and I wanted to, say, grow my data retention period to 180 days, but I still anticipated ingressing 1 million events per day on average, I would need to increase the overall capacity such that the overall storage capacity was in line with how many days I wanted to retain that data. So in this case, you'll notice that for my storage capacity to meet 1 million events per day for 180 days, I actually need to grow that environment size to 6 units of S1. Now, while I have the ability to ingress up to 6 million events per day, I'm still only assuming I'm going to ingress 1 million events per day, but this enables me to build an environment that meets those needs. So the next thing I'd like to cover is the FIFO policy of ingressing data. So in short, some customers connect event sources that have historical data within them that they don't actually intend to ingress into Time Series Insights. Azure IoT Hub and Azure Event Hubs can both store data for up to 7 days, meaning that if you were ingressing 1 million events per day and you intended to have Time Series Insights start with from the moment that you connected its event source to Time Series Insights, what we would do is we would read 7 days worth of data behind. We'd actually start with the oldest data within the event source and start ingressing that at a rate of 1 million events per day. And that's assuming I have a single S1 environment provisioned, and again, kind of going back to the baseline data retention policy. So the challenge that customers face is that when they start to see data, it looks like there's a 7-day lag. Like it's actually taking Time Series Insights an entire week to read all the data that they've pushed to us, when the reality is that we're actually ingressing right at the amount they've provisioned. However, we're grabbing the oldest data from their event source, which can make it appear that Time Series Insights is actually behind when in fact it's not. So this is really something to be mindful of. If you are going to connect a event source that has historical data that you don't intend to push into Time Series Insights, the best approach here would be to lower the retention policy and then confirm that the old events have actually been purged from the event source before you connect it to Time Series Insights. On the other hand, the other approach you can take is you can actually increase the overall size of the environment to one where the ingress rate is large enough that it will actually ingress the historical data. So as you can see here, using the example that we just had where a customer had 7 million events sitting within this event source, I could increase the capacity from 1 S1 units to 8 S1 units, which would give me a ingress throughput of 8 million events per day. I could grow the environment size to this capacity for a day, which would enable me to both ingress the historical data as well as catch me up with all of the streaming data that was coming in, or the fresher data. And then the next day, I could decrease the capacity back down to the overall capacity size I actually need, which in this case is 30 million events. And with the last two concepts in mind, I'd also like to call out throttling. So throttling is when you are pushing data into Time Series Insights from an event source, but there's a lag between when it flows into Time Series Insights and when you can actually query against it, or when it shows up in the Time Series Insights Explorer. Now, generally speaking, there's two reasons why you would experience a lag in your data. One is the concept we talked about earlier. Historical data is flowing in. You haven't increased the capacity, and therefore there is a large lag because there's many more events than what time series insights is capable of ingressing given the capacity that's provisioned, and therefore it is impossible for time series insights to catch up. And as we mentioned, growing that capacity is certainly the clearest way to do that. Now, the other one might be at your typical run rate when you experience a spike in data, and lots of events are sent in a very short period of time. So to handle this, it's the same approach. Increase the capacity during the spike, lower it back down once the spike is done. In the future, we will look to make this process a little bit more seamless, but for the time being, the way to do this is manually to increase the capacity and lower it back down. So just be aware that this is the best approach to handling that. Now, the next thing I'd like to call out is SKU migration. Unfortunately today, Time Series Insights does not have the ability to scale from an S1 type environment to an S2 environment or vice versa. Therefore, when creating an environment for the first time, it's important to choose an environment size that meets the needs that you expect to have at production or at the end of a POC, not what you're starting off with. And that will conclude this video. Please note that we are working hard to unblock some of the challenges that we covered today, and that concludes this video. Please note we will be working to unblock some of the challenges that we covered today, and stand by for more updates on that in the future. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this, and thanks for using the product.